He's right behind you.
Hello, I'm Avital Ash,
I'm Jessica Richards.
and today we have special guest
My name's Chris Candy.
on.
He's right behind you.
He's right behind you.
Oh my God. There was so much of that.
She's right
true.
behind you.
She's right behind you.
That's true. Well, today our movie is Misery, but first let's find out a little bit about Chris.
All right.
What do you want us to say about you / you say about yourself since I just put you,
You
on
put
the
me
spot?
on the spot. I feel like I'm in an audition
Well,
right
Chris
now.
and I met doing a very cool pilot that Clark Duke directed
Yep.
that Steven Weber was in along with me and Chris Candy.
Yeah. We did, it was initially a pilot. This was like 3 years ago. And it was for TBS. And
Very funny.
It was very funny. It was so funny, it didn't get picked up. But that's where we met, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was like a 5-day shoot. And
We met at the table read. We met at Clark's house. He made
met
us
at-
food.
Yes, he did.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I can't remember what he cooked.
I feel like it was eggs.
Ugh. Ugh. Well, yeah,
It's like eggs and beer at the table.
probably. Yeah, he's a very simple man. He's a simple man. Yeah, we met there, and then the show didn't get picked up, but it was really funny. Avatar was great in it.
Oh my gosh, thank you. You were too.
Yeah,
Everybody was.
It was
good in
really. It was a fun pilot, and we all made really good friends at the very end of it.
Yeah.
And
We went to go see Steven Weber and Mamma Mia together. I was Chris's date.
Yes, she was my date for the evening.
Wow.
Shared a blanket, the whole 9 yards.
Did we? We didn't have a blanket.
You brought a blanket. I was very underprepared.
I did?
Yeah.
I don't think that's true because afterward we said hi to Steven and I don't remember carrying around a blanket.
Look, this is like This American Life where people remember things differently.
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
true.
thing. Yeah.
That's true.
If
That was a
anyone
really
gets
great
that
way to meet him.
reference, oh boy, you're a nerd just like
Oh,
me.
and Chris just made a really great short film that's going to festivals right now.
Yeah, I've got a short film that I made with my writing partner, Garen Gardner, and it was directed by Rick Darge, another partner and collaborator of mine, called Chowchilla. And I'm really glad you enjoyed it. So,
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, cool.
about a brother and sister who own a family farm, and on the night of the open house, a bag of money from a drug drop gone wrong ends up on the front door. And just kind of, it's all about greed and what people do, and it is a hoot.
I didn't know anything about it, so it's just this like brother and sister like taking care of this old house left to them, and then I was very surprised when the money showed up. I was like, "Oh, this is not what I thought I was watching. This is very
Sounds very
different."
stressful.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, yeah, we played with the stress. And then Rick and I, so we made that, and we just did a rain dance in London, and it played Calgary, and Holly Shorts, it did really well. We were stoked with it.
Very
That's
deserved.
awesome.
Also, I know Donald Ian. We were in a writers group together,
You were?
and he's in it. I was like, "Wait,
Yeah.
is that?"
Uh-huh. He's great in it.
Yeah,
He's
he really
such
is.
a weirdo. Like, his character is such a weirdo. He is a genuinely great human being.
Yeah, and from what I remember, really good writer as well.
Yeah, very creative guy. And so, yeah, we have that. And then Rick and I did another short while we were in London at that festival. We put one together. So
Oh, cool.
more to come.
Can I see it?
Absolutely.
I'll send it to Jess if you want to see
Yeah.
it too.
Yeah, of course.
This
Okay.
one's very fun.
As soon as we leave here, you better fucking send it.
Yeah. I am emailing it ASAP, God damn it.
There's a question we like to ask.
Yeah.
Jessica, you do it.
What is your... Wait, what is the...
Yeah.
Oh,
What's
sorry,
your
I went
relationship?
blank.
What's your relationship
I was
to
just
horror?
listening, so I was like into the podcast.
I love it.
Okay, wait. What is your relationship with horror?
Oh, I have a very sad relationship with horror. Maybe it's also like in telling of my selection of Misery, where it kind of borderlines like horror thriller. I hate horror movies. I just like
Oh, no.
Like I it's not that I hate them. I guess that's a strong word, but I don't like gravitate towards watching them because I've just like been stressed out so much in my life. Why would I want to go and sit for 2 hours and get stressed? But I totally know why people love them. You know, it's like I think it was when I did another pilot where I was playing like a sci-fi pilot, And through that world, I met a bunch of horror people as well too, because they're kind of in the same camp.
Yeah.
And
Genre people.
Genre people, and genre has, and the horror genre has really followed me recently. So I've gotten to know a lot about it, and I love people who love horror films.
Hello.
Yeah, I know.
I was like you. I did not like horror because I didn't want to be afraid because I'm stressed out
Yeah.
anyway and anxious anyway, which is funny because so is Jessica, but she loves it.
I
But
have a lot
I'm
of
coming
anxiety
around.
in life. But I like the idea of being fake scared and like having control over that it's not real and like getting to enjoy the drama and all that stuff and
Right.
then closing that off.
Right.
Yes. I think, and I wonder if you have this at all, not to toot my own horn, but I'm good at comedy, I'm good at drama,
Mm-hmm.
I can be angry, I can be sad, but being scared on camera as an actor is so hard for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I never want to tap into that part of me. I hate
Right.
that feeling.
Right.
And when I'm scared, I'm really fucking scared. But that's what sort of was the impetus for me was I was like, I want to face my fears. I want to be in contact with that part of myself
Right.
rather than just suppressing it.
I agree. I guess there's a split though. Like I love horror, like classic horror, Shining and Hitchcock, and I guess is that horror?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, love that.
Great.
We have like a really broad definition here. It's so funny.
true.
Everyone is always like, is that a horror movie? And my answer is always yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Like love, and this gets
I
into
love that
to
about
misery.
Jessica. I mean, because I love Jaws and
Is Jaws
Pan's
a-
Labyrinth, and I didn't think of those as horror movies, but they are.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
I love Jaws. Jaws is one of my favorite movies.
Mine too.
I don't know why I like defaulted into thriller. Maybe
Me too.
thriller is like a word that helps me like digest horror.
Well, also maybe it's because I love Jaws, not because it scared me. So I'm not thinking
Yeah.
of it as scary because what I love about it is the character development and the way it's made and
Yes.
the
I agree.
dialogue. It's just a perfect movie.
It is a very perfect. That's a 4th of July movie.
Yes,
I do watch it on 4th of July. I watch all of them on
I was
4th of July.
bummed. I was like, we just missed July.
All the way to 4?
Yeah, 4's great. Michael Caine.
Oh, Michael Caine. Yeah.
Great.
Supposedly he never saw that movie.
No,
just
but he
made-
saw the house that it paid for, and it's great. That's his famous quote.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a great line.
Well, we've kind of been talking about this. It keeps coming up, so now I'm pushing it.
Yeah.
Which is, so we've been split on like what scares us more. I am more when we're watching movies, but like I'm really scared of like ghost movies and possession movies, and Avi is more scared of
Like home invasion, murderers, like Misery is really in the pocket of what scares me.
Okay.
So what scares you more?
I think unrealistic scares like scare me. Like I remember like watching in the theaters Event Horizon,
Ooh, that one scared me.
and I was like, "Why the hell am I watching this?" Like, it gets to a point where I watched the movie Event Horizon. Like, I've never seen them, but I'm sure the Saw movies would get the same reaction out of me. Where I'm watching them and I'm like, what is the point? But some people love that, like torture porn, kind of like, just like, or like I don't know if that's the
You're
right
saying
word.
that's what? Yeah, that's what scares you the most.
I think that's what bothers me the most. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, so that I think would get the most reaction. So like, if I were to go towards the thing that scares me the most, like Misery doesn't scare me that much, but I really enjoy the movie. Jaws doesn't scare me that much, but I really enjoy the movie. But if you were to say like, all right, Chris, you've got to sit and watch Saw, the whole Saw series, I'd just be like, God damn it.
I think I'm actually kind of with you in that I'm most afraid of somebody breaking in and torturing me. Like torture really scares me. I remember as a
Yeah.
kid,
Yeah.
I don't know why, the thing we always did as a family, we didn't do much, but we would go to Ripley's, believe it or not, was like a regular occurrence. But I would always have to close my eyes through the like torture section. I just would have to walk through it. Eventually, I
no,
was like, I'm
thank
not
you.
doing that. There was like an Iron Maiden and whatever. I was just like, I
Get-
have always been afraid of that.
I just I was invited to the employee preview of Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios.
Ooh.
And this is the greatest example. It's because like jump scares really get me too.
Yeah, I love good jump scares.
And I don't like it. I'm coming around. I
there
think
was a
Jessica's
really
rubbing
good
off
one in
on
this
me.
movie that got me.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
me too. I bet it was the
Big
same one. Okay,
Okay.
we'll get to it.
So, But yeah, so the whole time I was going through all of those mazes. I remember as a kid being like traumatized. My sister Jen would take me, and she loves it. And I'd just be going through these mazes, like freaking out. So I returned as a 35-year-old man, and I still had the same like childhood fear. So I spent half the time just like looking at the ground, going like like because they would scare me, but I just couldn't face it. So yes,
I'm with you. I don't want something to jump out at me.
no.
scary.
Oh, I love it. I mean, if it's like in the context of fic, I'm
Right.
like, I keep getting scared that, so like now that we're getting like responses on Instagram from like people I don't know and stuff, I'm like scared to like say on here like, oh, I like it when people jump out and scare me. I don't want like people in
Right.
real life to do it.
Yeah, don't do that.
Please don't. It makes me so nervous. But I love if I'm going to a haunted house and like they're like letting you all in too quickly and I'm too close to the people I don't know in front of me. That's the worst because then it's like they're getting all the scares. I want the
That's what I
scares.
want. I want to see other people be terrorized at a haunted house. I don't want it.
Oh, then I could give you some good strategy on how to do that. Because I'm
You
the
just go
opposite.
ahead of
I'm
me.
always like trying to figure out how to get the fresh scare.
Okay.
I don't want it to be ruined.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I started to notice there are people like what you're explaining, like who just genuinely love like the art of the scare.
Yeah, I like the adrenaline of it because I get really motion sick. So like I can't do roller coasters. I can't do any of that stuff to get like my adrenaline up. I'm not
Right.
physically active. So, and like I don't have a very dramatic life. So it's like jump scares are my big like adrenaline.
And it's funny when you said the art of the scare, I was thinking of it more like dissecting what it is that's scary about something, and that I'm very into. Like there's a classic moment in Jaws that Spielberg was watching an audience react to it, and nobody was jumping at this particular moment where it's like they're underwater and Richard Dreyfuss is like peering and whatever. And so he shot, I think he might have paid for it himself, like did one extra shoot to add, I think it's literally just one shot before something, and then everybody jumped at that moment. And I like
Oh, it must have been the dead body.
Yes.
Ben Gardner's boat. Gotta go. I'm not gonna do lines from Jaws. But Ben
yeah, when it like
Gardner's
comes
boat.
out, right?
Yeah.
He's like underwater in a yes.
He's underwater, and then he drops the tooth. He finds Jaws' tooth in Ben Gardner's boat, and then Ben Gardner comes out, and his eyeball is like bulging or out of his body. I can't remember what it was, but
Yeah.
And then he drops it. Ah!
Yeah. All underwater. I think we're talking about the same part. Yes.
Yeah, that's-
yeah. I think I really need to rewatch Jaws. Now I'm just wanting it.
You got to wait till the 4th of July. You can't watch
got-
it until
yeah.
But I love that like very specific. Okay, just rearranging these two shots gets everybody to jump.
you like the science.
I'm
of it.
already.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm inviting myself back for the Jaws podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, please.
That'd be great.
And we have one more question before we get into
Sure.
it, which is, are there any like moments from a scary movie or like what's the scariest or something that really stayed with you?
Okay, so like I remember Arachnophobia being like just terrifying when I watched it.
Yeah, same. I've really bad arachnophobia.
And I remember watching that and just being a kid, just like I can't, like just the fear like just covered me. But again, these are all like childhood like fears that are kind of like percolating. Like
Those are maybe the most potent.
they really
Yeah,
stick.
that's true.
Because now like spiders don't really scare me as much
Yeah.
as I've gotten a little older. I don't know.
No, they still scare me.
Don't put one in here.
I'm not really scared of spiders. It's more roaches, even though they're not as dangerous.
Yeah, see, and I'm not scared of roaches, but arachnophobia is so good because so much of it is real spiders, which
Right.
is just crazy.
Yeah, that movie really got to me. I remember. I'm trying to think if there was any other one. I remember Event Horizon was just like a psychedelic experience when I was in the theaters. I was like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, it was just so intense. And
Yeah, there's one really scary scene in that really stayed with me.
yeah, right? I can't even remember it. I just
It's like a razor blade thing.
oh, God. It was fun to segue into Misery.
Yeah.
But I loved this movie.
So I'd never seen this movie, it turns out.
I'm shocked. How is that possible?
I think I knew about it.
Uh-huh.
I knew enough about like what was happening to be like, oh, not for me.
Interesting.
Because I knew that I knew the hobbling scene was gonna be in it.
Yes.
So
yeah.
it was like one of those things where I was like, okay, well, I get it.
Same. All I really knew, two things, was that, which I was like waiting for the whole movie, which made it much more tense for me because I'm like, just do it already.
Yeah.
Get it out of the way. I didn't remember the word hobbling till she said it. I remember I was like, I think she breaks his legs. The word hobbling is so much scarier than just breaking legs. And then I knew that like a joke that would come up was like before he passed away, which makes me very sad. Leonard Cohen, like I felt like I could be Kathy Bates and Leonard Cohen would be my like James Caan.
Oh,
like,
really?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
I
wow.
would lock you in my home. I wouldn't break his legs. I would just make him fall in love with me. And then we'd live happily ever after. But I related to her.
Oh, no.
So, you enjoyed it or you didn't like it?
I thought it was really good.
Okay.
I thought it was really good. I was same. I knew it was coming. And the whole way through, I was like, like, wincing. And then I was like, that's
Right.
not the scene. Ooh, that's not the scene.
I know.
Like-
there were so many times where I was like, it's going to be now. And it wasn't.
Yeah.
I know. I almost wonder if there's like a way, or if anyone had this where they watched it not knowing it was a horror and thought
Yes.
maybe it was like Bridges of Madison County or something, and it
Yes.
was like where these two people are going to find love.
Yes,
like,
it felt that way in the beginning. I was
I
like,
felt jealous
because
because I was like, I know where we're going. Let's get there.
yeah.
Yeah.
It would be cool to see it not knowing.
I think so too, because
Yeah.
it does start out like very, like I wrote down in my notes when the first moment that like something scary happens, and it's not till like 30 minutes in or something
Yeah.
where she takes a turn.
I think all the best horror movies do that. Like The Exorcist did that. The Shining has some moments, but like he doesn't turn till later in a real way. Yeah.
In my mind, it played with rewatching it. The pacing of it was really smart, like, and how it kind of. I'm like, oh wow, like it starts and ends very quickly, And so,
Yeah.
like in the very beginning, when I was watching it, it's like, okay, he finishes the final book.
Right. He writes the end, and I'm like, oh, this is a feel-good movie. I know how good it feels to get to that point when you write the end. This is a happy film.
Lights the cigarette with the match, and I was listening to the sound design. The match strike was super strong. It was like
Foreshadowing.
and it was a foreshadow.
I didn't catch that then, but as you
Yeah,
said
I
it
didn't
now, I
either.
was like,
As I was
ah.
watching it then, because I just remember hearing him like, wow, that's a really like aggressive match strike.
I like that.
And then he has the champagne. And then what song is it that plays in the beginning? There's like an old classic song that starts the movie off, but then it's like immediately car crash. Like he's
Yeah.
and then
Oh.
she's there.
One thing,
Well-
even before we get to
Yeah.
where the movie itself,
Oh, sure.
is that it's directed by Rob Reiner and shot by Barry Sonnenfeld, which
Yeah.
I think is a very nice. This is a me and Jessica thing, but Jessica has a rom-com podcast.
You had me at rom-com.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I came on it for my favorite rom-com, which is When Harry Met Sally, which is also directed by Rob Reiner and also shot by Barry Sonnenfeld.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, this is a rom-com. Misery is When Harry Met Sally.
But, yeah, I guess it's like the twisted version of Harry Met Sally. It's a twisted rom-com.
Yeah, they're just not friends for years.
No, no. But she,
Thank God.
she
Yeah.
might be through her like
Right.
psychotic.
Oh
feels
yeah,
like she
she
knows
probably
him.
thinks she was friends with him for
Right.
years.
Yeah.
Right. Also, I just love Barry Sonnenfeld as a director, too. So I'm excited when I'm like, oh, right, you started as a DP
Yeah.
and switched very successfully. Switching careers is always cool. Okay, sorry.
No,
Continue.
Well, when he gets in this car wreck, and the irony of this, or I don't know if that's the right word, is that she does save his life.
Yeah.
Because we find out later, like, they
He would have
wouldn't have
frozen to
found
death.
the truck in time, because when
Yeah.
they try to,
Yep.
or not truck, car, when they try to look, it's buried in snow.
Yeah.
Right. He
So-
gets so close. That scene is really good. The cop
Yeah.
is looking for him once they realize that he's gone missing, and he goes off road. He sees a
But she
snapped
is
branch.
a hero
Yeah.
initially.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it went, from my opinion, watching it, like everything really started bothering me. She's feeding him pills.
Oh, the
he-
pills right away. I was like, another pill, another pill.
And then her behavior was so psychotic that and like the phone lines are down, the roads are closed, all the
Right.
lies started.
And you don't know at that point if
Yeah.
she's lying for sure.
Uh-huh.
She could be telling the truth.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, and I would think even initially she is at first.
I don't think she was.
I
That's
mean,
a
I
fun
think-
point of
Yeah, I mean,
conversation.
we'll never know. But I
Right.
think because of the way that we see the blizzard conditions, and
Yeah.
she has to pull him out of the car, and then when the police chief comes, or sheriff, whatever he is, when he comes later, the car is buried under so much more snow that it's like there really was a blizzard, and
Yeah.
conditions might have prevented her from getting him help that day.
Right.
Right.
It
And
is
I don't think
possible.
she has a phone line.
Yeah.
So they are down.
they
where
just
she
don't
is.
exist
Yeah,
for her.
She doesn't. There's that scene where he like lifts up the phone and
Right.
there's nothing
oh,
there.
it's such a good scene.
Oh,
It's
it's
so
so
creepy.
cool.
Can we also talk about
Sure.
how Lauren Bacall is in her late 60s and she's so hot?
Yeah.
I
She
love
looks
her.
so good.
I love the like tonal shift from like where
Yeah, like
rural
rom-com world.
yeah, rural Americana world into this like it must have. I can't tell if it was a production set or if it was like it must have been an actual office in New York, but it's like
Like a
Lauren
fancy
Bacall.
agency.
Yeah, agency office. The movie on a whole to me had a very 90s feel, which
Yeah.
was very fun to dip back into that world
Yeah.
and watch. But yeah, she was awesome in that movie.
She's great. And but she's so foxy, which is very
Yes.
superficial. But I'm just like, God, let me look like that in my 60s.
Uh-huh.
I love her
Please.
voice.
Yeah, me too.
That's every time
What's
I hear
her-
her voice, it's so comforting.
How's her voice sound? Does it sound like this? No, it does. No.
No.
You nailed it. That's her. Is Lauren Bacall here? Oh my gosh.
I'm sitting and doing the podcast. Yes.
But there's something about her voice that's also very like authoritative
Yes.
in a
Yeah.
way that you just don't hear women
Yes,
usually.
it's
That I
true.
just like, oh, I respect you so much
I love
out
it.
of nowhere.
I know you have like 6 lines, and I respect you so hard.
Yeah, like you're gonna get stuff done. I believe
Yeah,
you.
be my agent, please. And then Kathy Bates' first line, I think, is "I'm your number one fan." I think that's the first thing we ever hear her say.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's so creepy. I have a question
Yeah.
for you guys. I really like this part. I was scared, right? He says, but he's particular about who can read early drafts.
Yeah.
He says, just my editor, my agent, and anyone who saves me from freezing to death in my car. And I was like, thank goodness, because I was afraid he was going to be like, just they, and then that's what causes her wrath. Question is, I think I know the answer by the end of the movie, but I wrote it down. Then she points at herself, which I love. When he's like, anyone who saves me from death in the car, she's like, me? If he had said, no, sorry, you have to wait till it comes out to read it, because she does seem to have her own sort of moral code. Do
Right.
we avoid all of this nightmarish situation if she doesn't read it?
Oh, wow.
Well, but the draft isn't what sets her off. It's the new Misery book that sets her off.
Yes.
That's what I mean. Isn't it the...
No,
Oh, maybe
the
I'm
Misery book is
confused.
printed. So he goes to Colorado, where he always goes to the Silver Creek Lodge
Yeah.
to write his new book because he killed off Misery.
Oh,
The Misery
I thought
series
this book
is
was
done.
killing off
No.
No,
Misery.
this is like his. What is that? He's pivoting
Yeah,
into
sure.
something new. He's killed off Misery.
Yeah.
But she makes him burn it, so I thought it was like to bring Misery back.
No, because she thought it was trash. She didn't like that there was a lot of potty language on it.
Yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah,
I remember
yeah.
that.
And then she runs out to the new general store, to the new general, to the,
The
old
only
general.
store.
I'm sorry, to get the new book.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she buys a couple copies, I think,
Mm-hmm.
because they say
Yeah.
something where they're like, "We set it aside for her."
Yeah.
And then she comes home, and throughout, she's like, "I'm on page 75. I'm
Yeah,
on."
I thought she meant of his newest draft, his new...
No,
Oh,
those are
I was
two separate
confused.
things.
Okay.
Yeah.
The new Misery book is out in the world.
And Misery is killed off. She dies. Misery dies in, was it childbirth? How did she die?
Yeah, right?
it was something like
childbirth.
Yeah, it was something natural.
It's like the 8th book, though, in the
I,
series.
Only in hearing you say that now do I catch the metaphorical implications, which are basically James Caan is trying to give birth to a new type of
Yes.
artistic work, and it almost kills
kills
him.
him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
she
cool.
dies. Yeah, and okay, so yes.
But I just thought, at first I thought exactly what you guys were saying, but then especially when she makes him burn it, I was like, okay, she's trying to take us back to Misery still alive.
That's why that one's called Untitled.
Right.
And
Not
he says, like,
Misery's
maybe you'll come up
something.
with a title for it.
Yeah.
Oh
What does
my
the title end up being? Do we remember?
Well, it doesn't matter. There is no. Oh, no.
no, it never happened.
Oh, right,
She
of course.
burns it before.
Yes.
Not
I
a
guess I was
thing.
thinking of the title of the book that comes out at the very end, but that's a separate. That's
Yeah,
jumping
we
too
don't
far
know
ahead.
if that's the same story or totally
No, I don't think
different.
so. Yeah.
It's not clear.
It seems like
It did hurt when he burned that book. I was like, oh my God. Like, as a
know.
writer myself, and not even
So
like as accomplished
painful.
as him, but I was like, but all the things that you wrote down are gone.
Yes.
Like, it stressed me out so much.
It's so stressful. Oh, go ahead.
It had that feeling of like watching it going like, oh yeah, there was an era where it was typed out and the one copy was the one copy.
Right.
And when it's
Yeah.
gone, it is gone. You know, it's hard.
It made me want to send drafts to everybody of everything.
Yeah.
Well, I'm always so scared that I'm going to lose the audio for this podcast and be
Right.
like,
Yeah.
oh no, that whole thing, and no one's going to forgive me. It's gone. And we wasted somebody's time.
Right. What's interesting is maybe I'm getting a little confused about the order, but at first she's really upset about the cursing. But then she kind of takes it back and apologizes and is like, you must be so angry at me. I'm sorry, I lost my temper. And he's sort of like, who doesn't lose their temper every now and again? But then she decides that he has to burn it. So what changes from one moment to the next?
Well, she's a psycho.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think
That's
it just
one thing. It's an abusive relationship where the person is really, really crazy, and then later is like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. It'll never happen again. Really, you made me do this. Really,
Yeah.
really crazy."
Yeah.
It's a lot of like, not my fault.
Right.
It was, yeah. He lets her read it. She reads it. She freaks out. But there is something that happens in between that and then, like, she makes him burn it. Does he start venturing out? I can't remember.
He does, but she doesn't know it yet.
She doesn't know it yet, but then afterwards, that's when she makes him burn it. That's what he goes out of the house
Yeah.
first, then he burns it, and he's like totally. But then she gives him the opportunity to write the new one. She also,
Yeah.
I loved the phrase "dirty birdie." Can
Oh,
we talk about
yeah.
Dirty Birdie?
Yeah.
What did she says something like, you're just a dirty birdie like the rest of them?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah, that is such a crazy.
Oh,
Yeah.
like the writing, some of those. Oh God, it was so good. Dirty Birdie was good.
She was great. He's great. I also wanted dog ear. I guess we can get to it, but I think it's so interesting that she has the cross around her neck. She
Yeah.
has an aversion to bad language, but then later we find out she's done some heinous things.
Oh yeah.
So I wonder what her moral code is exactly.
Oh, so can we go backwards for just a minute?
Sure.
So she does get mad about the profanity, but the turn is the misery.
Yes.
Is the fact that Misery dies. She's
Oh,
like,
'cause
you have
she's
to
just
burn your other
reading it.
book.
Okay,
Yeah.
I
You-
see.
That's the turn.
That was the turn. Yeah.
You have to burn the other book because your next book has to be
be it.
Misery.
Yeah,
not
we have to
this
get
other
back
one.
to Misery.
Right. So that makes sense. It's like Misery's buried at the end of
You
this
must rid
one.
the world of this filth, is what she says.
Oh, and when she brings in the barbecue.
That's
and
the
then-
surprise.
Yeah.
Oh my
It's so
god.
creepy. Every time she's like, I have a surprise. I was like, hobbling? Hobbling the surprise? But I think, like, as bad as the hobbling scene is, I think burning the book is the scariest scene to me.
Interesting.
It
yeah.
was so upsetting and stressful. And, like, in a weird way, I'm like, your ankles will heal.
Will
but
they?
the book will never be that book again.
The
Like,
first hobble, the first time the mallet or whatever it is, like knocks his foot off, that is definitely the scariest moment to me.
Oh, burning the book. I don't know. I took a break after, like, as in between her handing him the matches and him setting it on fire. I literally took a break because I was
my
like, I can't. I'm sweating and I don't like it.
Yeah. What's interesting, it's like her tactics get more and more specific and more intense as the movie goes on. Like to the end, like it's like every minute there's like a needle getting shoved in his arm, like to sedate him. And it's like the scenes that had me the most tense were done really well was when he was, exploring around the house.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
She
I
would
agree.
leave, and the editing was done so well during that because he would leave, and you'd feel like the key, like he makes the key. That's the first thing where he goes
Yes.
out, and then he drops it, and then there's a lot of good cuts to
Yes.
him picking it up and
He's in pain.
Oh, and he's got to get
Yeah.
out there, and then the penguin almost falls. Oh, the penguin.
Penguin's a great moment because
That's-
you catch it, or at least I did, right?
Oh,
You're
yeah.
like, he literally catches it,
Yes.
puts it back, but then I'm like, oh no, he put it back backwards.
Well, that's so. My husband Brad was like coming in and out as I was watching this, and that scene with the penguin where he puts it back up. Brad goes, "Did you see that?"
You're like, yeah, I saw
And I
it.
was like, he put it the wrong way. I saw it. And he's like, okay. And then it doesn't come back for forever.
long time.
And like 15 or 20 minutes later, I'm like, does Brad know what he's talking about? Like,
Oh,
I
had he
don't
seen
think
the
that was as
movie?
relevant. Yeah.
Yeah, I caught it, but then I had the same experience where I was like, oh, that maybe he gets away with it.
Yeah, I felt like maybe it wasn't going to come back at a certain point.
Yeah, because I knew about the hobbling, every time he was out of the wheelchair getting something done, I was like, she's going to come back, see him out of the wheelchair, and break his legs.
No, it's like
And it was not that.
I loved the pacing because you
Yeah.
kind of even
Yeah.
on the rewatch, I was like, okay, the hobbling scene comes up, and then wait, how does it end? Like I completely forgot how the movie ended.
Yeah, oh,
Um,
interesting.
Yeah, I completely forgot. That was what was fun about the rewatch for me on it.
I was really rooting. I was like, I don't know if this has a happy ending, but I really hope he makes it out.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
know either. I
Yeah.
hadn't seen it.
Also, a super tense moment for me is when she keeps giving him these pills and he doesn't take them and he starts storing them.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's
oh, that's
great.
so good, so
I
smart.
said, like, he did that so much quicker than I thought he was going to do it.
Yeah.
Like, pretty initially, he's like, I'm not taking these pills.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yes, I mean, I feel like he's in so much pain. I don't know how he does that, but he does.
Well, we don't
More
even know
power
what the
to-
pills are.
I thought we were going to get to see when he finally does venture out and he finds the pills. I thought they were going to show us the label, and they didn't.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We never find out what they are, but I think they're just painkillers.
Yeah, they just
Yeah.
look like NSAIDs to me.
Like what?
NSAIDs.
What's an NSAID?
It's like aspirin.
Oh,
Oh.
I didn't know
it's
that
Sudafed.
either.
It's in a lot of pills.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Oh,
sound
okay.
like an idiot to other people who know what they are, but it's like
we
Or
both
we
are
sound like
yeah, what's that? Insect?
What's an NSAID?
but it looks
NSAID.
yeah, it looked like
Inside
it was like
insect.
Sudafed or something to me, like one of the not like
Yeah.
the little red ones, but it looked like it would be like something
But
strong.
Sudafed's not very strong, right? Isn't that the one that like
Right,
pregnant
but
women are
like
supposed
it just
to
looked
take when
like
they-
anything you'd get from the drugstore the way it was packaged.
Well, we learn as the film goes on that she could have gotten stuff from anywhere.
Yeah.
The character.
She's a
because
nurse.
She's a nurse.
So I thought it was some
Yeah.
medical grade shit.
Yeah, I thought medical
Mm-hmm.
grade. She had, the needle scenes actually got
Oh,
me.
I know they're so scary.
Yeah, just like the boom, you're out.
Suddenly he has no control.
Well,
Well, and the change of her demeanor too. Like
Yeah.
Kathy Bates is so perfectly cast.
Yeah.
Because she can be so warm and sweet, and then a light just goes out,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so scary.
She's terrifying.
can we talk about real quick how there's only like 5 people in this whole movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
It's really an
Like-
accomplishment.
Yeah,
That's
like,
my favorite kind of
There's-
movie.
Yeah, it's like Lauren Bacall, Kathy Bates, James Caan, the sheriff, and the sheriff's wife, and that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, and then the
Oh,
owner,
the pig, Misery.
Misery the pig, and the store owner. There's a
Oh,
random
right,
scene.
right.
And I love that whole backstory with the sheriff. You get 2 stories.
Oh, the sheriff is great. He felt like he was right out of Fargo.
I love the
Yeah.
sheriff. My favorite is when he chastises his wife. They're in the car, and the wife tries to like rub his leg, and he says, "In here, you're my deputy. At
Yeah.
home, you're my wife." He's like mad that she's rubbing his leg. Oh, so good. Also, Misery the pig, very cute. And at the end, it said that Misery the pig plays herself. So I guess that pig is named Misery.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
It was a
in the credits.
coincidence.
That was again. That was
Why
like
she got the part.
Yeah, the other pigs were like, God damn it.
Yeah. It's always Misery.
Yeah, I was thinking about that scene specifically too. As I was watching it, and I was like, what a weird day that must have been of shooting. Like they've been making this movie, and then like all of a sudden, like the animal wrangler shows up, and they're like, all right, we've got the pig, and today's pig day.
Yeah,
You
I
know.
kept thinking the pig was going to eat him.
Oh, I thought eventually he was going to kill the pig.
I thought there was going to be like some Hannibal stuff going on.
Yeah, no,
Interesting.
that's interesting. If I had, yeah, I could see how you would have thought that, and that messes with the mind even more. Like, oh, is this pig gonna eat? Yeah,
We've talked
Jimmy
to
Khan.
a couple times about that website, doesthedogdie.com. And it basically shows you like a list of things that you might not want to see in a movie. It's like, does the black guy die first? Does the cat die? Does
Right.
the dog die? All these things. Is there a rape scene? Like things that might be triggers. And so I almost went to see if the pig dies. I didn't, but the good news is Misery the pig lives as far as we can
Misery,
see.
yeah, Misery. Well, Misery might not be around anymore, but
Yeah.
I'm not
But
trying
at
to-
the time.
at the time of production, Misery survives.
See, I didn't have that feeling because I thought Misery was a villain too. I was like, he's gonna try to eat you.
Oh, I was like, he doesn't know any better. He's just a
or
pawn.
she's gonna try
Or
to eat
she.
you. Misery
Yeah.
the pig is a girl.
I think that was like that was like a tool for the character though, because she was like so evil. Like she was very black and white in the sense of it was like she was super dark, super evil, and then would immediately switch and be like, yeah, I got like a pet pig named Misery, and like, you want some hot cocoa, and like, you know.
Oh, but that I thought was more just a cover. That I didn't think was her being a sweetheart. That was just
I thought that-
distracting. Maybe both.
I thought she turned on and off, and then I thought the first reveal where you see that she's darker is when she's watching television.
Mm-hmm.
She's just like eating like those. There's like a scene early on in the film where like they cut to her in her bedroom, and she's like watching like news or
yeah, like the
TV.
dating game.
Yeah, she's watching
Oh,
the
yeah,
dating game, and
yeah.
she's just like shoveling Cheetos in her mouth.
And she's drinking a Coke out of like a 2-liter bottle.
Yeah.
Which I don't
So
know what
good.
is going on with me, but that was like a red flag to me where I was like, who drinks Coke out of a 2-liter bottle like that?
I was thinking about it as I was watching it, going like, to take a little turn into like a political thing, I was like, wow, like this is really interesting. Like, because the movie reminded me of a lot of things, but it's like, is this like a 90s perspective of like big cities on rural America? Like, you know, like this East Coast, West Coast thing, liberal coast, and then like the fear that there's this like psychopathic like super fan out there that's going to kill you from Colorado. Like, I was just... I did find that the fear of this movie, even though it held up so well still as I was watching it.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
It's so good. A moment that was super tense for me is when, I don't remember how many times he ventures out with the aid of the bobby pin, but he gets this knife from the kitchen.
Yes.
And he's just holding it under the blanket. He's practicing pulling it out.
It's in his sling.
Yeah.
And then, but this is the turn.
Yeah, it does. Well, first, already it was super tense for me just waiting. I'm like, she's going to come in. He's going to stab her. And then she doesn't come in. He hides the knife under the bed.
Another really great shot. You see the footsteps, and they're peeking through the door.
Yes.
And then it's like, okay, I guess I'm going to go to sleep. Puts the knife back. And then he wakes up and he's fucking tied up.
Yes, and she's hovering above him. I jumped. That was is that the moment you were talking about? Okay. That was my jump scare, was she was just over him. And what does she say? She injects him then, maybe?
She injects him immediately.
And then she ties him up.
And then she ties him up. And then that is when he wakes up, he's delusional. And she says, I can see you've been leaving the room, Paul. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, and he's like, what are you talking about? And then
he starts reaching for the knife.
And then the knife, are you looking for this?
And she holds it up to his face. So scary.
And then that's the payoff. You get that right there. And she explains like the history of it.
The penguin faces due north, or what does she say?
Due west.
Due west. Always due west. And then the history of the ankle torture.
Right.
Workers in the mines, if they wanted to keep them around, because that was her whole thing. To go back 2 seconds.
Yes.
The scene where she is crazy depressed with the gun.
Oh my gosh!
Oh yeah, where she's like, maybe I'll go put bullets in it.
Right. She says the rain gives her the blues.
The rain gives her the blues.
Which I thought about that so much because it's like mental health awareness month. Or day, or I don't know how long
it won't
they
be
give
by
you.
the time this comes out, but it was.
No, but it was.
Yeah.
And so when she was saying that, I'm like reading all these posts on social media about mental health awareness and all this stuff, and then she says that, and I was like, oh no, she needs to go see somebody.
Right.
She's okay.
Uh-huh.
This can be fixed.
No, she's seeing misery. That's Dr. Misery's helping her through all of it.
Oh man. Also, about the hobbling scene, apparently William Goldman, who wrote the screenplay, in the original version, she cuts off. I don't know if I can't remember now if it's one of his feet or one of his legs, but she fully amputates one of his feet.
I looked up. I was on IMDb.
Yeah, and then Rob Reiner fought for the hobbling instead, and then later William Goldman said he was right. But I wonder which would have been scarier. I don't know. The hobbling was really scary.
The hobbling was done really well. I almost was thinking of like when they were screening this for like notes, and the studio was like, okay, you get like 1 foot bending in, and you can't get the other one.
Yeah.
I
was relieved.
Yeah, because the first one is so good. It's just like, and then the second, and then I'm like, I can't remember if they show it again, and then it's like just on. Back on his face. It's already been done. And then you get the really great reveal scene after where she's walking with Misery the pig. And she's, hi, Paul.
Oh, right.
And then,
like they're buddies.
And then he just gives her the middle finger.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
He does such a good job throughout, though, of being such a smart character.
Yeah.
Because she does all these turns. And he's always like, no, that's okay.
Right.
No, we all
he's
have a bad
good
time.
actor.
No, we all
the character is a good actor.
He's really good at like being in a bad situation and like trying to keep everybody calm.
Right.
And like, hey, let's have dinner. And like, thank you for saving my life. And he's so like, in a real situation, like he might make it out of this.
Right.
He might convince her long enough for him to get out.
There were moments where I wanted him almost to lean into it more, where she's like, I know you don't love me early on. And I wondered what would have been like if he had said right before the hobbling, if he was like, I do love you, I want to be with you, but I won't I won't be able to love you if you do this to me.
I don't think that would have done it, because I think she had said, because she says, I love you, don't say you love me, I know you don't mean it.
But could he have convinced her?
I don't think in those moments.
Or
maybe
even,
like
I want
at
you
dinner.
to meet my daughter.
It wouldn't have
it's
worked
her
because
birthday.
it would have. It
Well,
wouldn't have.
that meant nothing.
The
when
only-
she
No, but
said
if it was,
that.
I want you to meet her, as opposed to, I need to call my daughter.
Well,
I wonder.
at the end when he
doesn't
does
like kids.
does use that technique.
That's true. Yes. yeah, it does kind of work at the end.
Well, she buys it, but then she's addicted to misery, and
Right.
so it's like that's the only thing that saves his life. He's like, I've got. You want to see this? We have to bring her back. It's our gift.
Yeah,
So
we have to die so she
Yeah.
can live.
Yeah.
Question: did either of you think it was weird that the protagonist of all of his novels for many, many years is named Misery?
A little bit.
That's like not a person's name.
I mean, it
Yeah.
seemed like it was a romance novel thing.
That's
like
what I
the
thought.
covers
Sure.
looked very like
did.
that, and it's like Fabio Misery.
Very Danielle Steele.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got the sense that they were like a Daniel Steele
But
type.
still, Misery, maybe like Hope or
Yeah.
Autumn or something.
I mean, but also like when you listen to the things that they're like. It was a bee sting that put her in a coma, and then they buried her, and it was really she's gonna find out that her father. There's all these things where I was
Right.
like, what
Very
time
soap
period is
opera.
Misery
Yeah.
in?
Yeah.
because it also didn't feel like modern day.
Right.
If she got a bee sting and they buried her alive, it's
Yeah.
like what kind of medicine are we working with in this time period?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I could see it like 1800s or something.
Right. Maybe.
Yeah, like it's a melodramatic rom
Dram.
rom-dram book.
Yeah.
Misery.
Yeah.
the book. The
That's
book.
true.
Well,
so you
it
were going
spoke
to
to
say
her.
that the only thing that works is appealing to her addiction to the Misery series more than love, for example, would work for her.
Well, because she's the other thing that I got out of this movie as I was watching it is like unhealthy working relationships.
Oh,
like
jeez.
like when you're like working and with someone and it's just like really bad and you'll just kind of like say anything because he's doing that because the other person is just so twisted. And I was like, oh my god, this is like a bad writer's couple or something like that. You know what I mean?
And she's so delusional because
Yeah.
she did save his life, but then she's also saying, I know you don't love me. But then she's also like, and I'll inspire this next, like, I'm a hero for inspiring this. I'll inspire you.
It was like codependency to save his life or something like that.
Yeah.
He
Well,
had
there
to.
is like, I feel like her obsession is, you're right, with the books and not necessarily with him because she has memorized what he does writing wise, that he always writes out at the Silver Creek Lodge. He's always alone. He only does one copy, blah, blah, blah. But when he says, like, it's my daughter's birthday, she's not like, no, your daughter's birthday is August 12th.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, do you
So-
think he was lying? I thought he was telling the truth.
I thought he was lying
Interesting.
because I thought he was like, you have to let me call her.
Oh, I thought it was
no,
true.
you can't. It's her birthday.
I thought it was
Like,
true because at first I even thought, oh, maybe she'll let him just so people don't realize he's gone missing. Because if he doesn't call on his daughter's birthday, then they know something happened, and then of course she doesn't care that people.
I
realize
thought it
he's
was a
gone missing.
tactic.
Interesting.
There was a lot of that. Now that you're saying that, there's a lot of that going on. She was just like she had him in his web, in her web. Excuse me.
Yeah. Well, we do find out when he sneaks into her room, he finds this album of clippings.
Oh yeah.
You have memory lane.
And it's all of these like things that she's cut out of newspapers. That,
Oh my god, I was obsessed with all this. Like I paused and read every single article.
Oh, that's
Oh,
great.
crazy.
I rewound because at one point there are pictures of Misery the pig, and I was like, wait, did she do something to pigs? And then I was like, oh no, she just put pictures of the pig
Yeah,
in
like
there.
they're
just to
kinda
decorate
mixed
it.
in.
Yeah. So it seems like she's killed a lot of babies, which
Yes.
makes
Well,
this
it
kind of out of
starts-
character for her. Yes.
It's with her dad. There's the first article is about how her dad died in a freak accident where he fell down the stairs.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And then we have articles about the top nursing student who had a freak accident where she fell down the stairs.
Uh-huh.
And then it's like, oh, by the way, also at that same school, Annie Wilkes graduated magna cum laude. And she's doing great.
I wonder if the other nurse would have been.
That's what it sounded like, because
Yeah.
it sounded like she was like valedictorian, the other nurse. And then it's like she is in charge of, I think, old people was one of them.
Okay. I like that you paused to read
Yeah,
them all.
I'm very.
I'm glad. Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Annie Wilkes to head intensive care units.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then she was named county's head maternity nurse. And then baby Lucy dies after a 5-week struggle in the hospital. And that's the first baby death.
And then how many baby deaths do we
Then
have?
there's a second newborn who dies after developing flu-like symptoms. And then nurse questioned in those. And then there's like this bonkers one that was like, infant infant deaths returned to hospital's nursery ward. And you keep reading, it goes, well, we found the bodies of 3 infants. In one night, they were all smothered.
Oh my god.
Oh my God.
It seems like a normal way for 3 infants to die in a hospital.
Right, all found the next day, all smothered.
Which seems weird because what we've seen of Annie, she's pretty smart. And that just seems so blatant. But she does get away with it.
And then
somehow.
it's like maternity nurse behind bars. I like it said, in quotes, dragon lady arrested in recent baby deaths.
Yeah, did they ever explain why she's the dragon lady?
No.
Okay.
So she goes to jail.
Yeah, she goes to court.
Courts, but they
Okay.
But she quotes Misery. She
Oh,
quotes the
that's
book
what- yeah, that's what
Right.
it is.
as her defense.
There's a power.
But it's not a defense. It's sort of just a comment. Like, you guys can judge me, but I'm not concerned with your judgment.
yeah,
Well,
there's
she
a
does it
power
on the
greater than
stand, I
man.
think.
Yeah.
It's, I answer to a higher power.
Right, right. What'd you say, Jessica? She would?
Well, she does it like on the stand.
right. She says it, but
Right.
it's not actually a defense of anything. It's just kind of like,
But I mean, that is her part of her defense.
sure.
In-
but how
in,
does
like-
she actually get away with it? What is her actual...
Yeah,
Defense.
I guess that's
We don't know.
maybe
There were any articles on that,
there.
so I can't tell you.
Maybe it was just circumstantial evidence and she had a good lawyer or something.
But there are, I mean, you hear a lot of these cases, not a lot, but I've heard a few of these where it's like a nurse in a maternity ward who's killing babies.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. And this,
Yikes.
when I went on IMDb, it had said that this was based on a specific one.
Oh, wow.
That they were
interesting.
kind of talking about.
That's
but yeah, for one
Wow.
reason or another, there's always like someone in charge who wants
There's
to
a
kill a
lot
bunch
of-
of babies.
Baby-related deaths, too, of like either somebody wants a baby, so they lure a pregnant woman. Like there was like something with Craigslist where it was like, baby stroller available, and then she murdered the pregnant woman to try and steal her baby.
What?
Or, yeah, that was
Oh
not
my
that long
God.
ago.
Well, I've said this before on the podcast that the number one cause of death of pregnant women is murder.
How crazy is that?
Because it's either people want your baby so they kill you, or it's
don't
men
want
who
the
don't
baby.
want your baby and they
oh
kill
my
you.
God.
That's crazy.
I did look that up after that podcast to be like, was that correct when I said that? Because I had a
And?
big asterisk of like, I think this is right. And according to the internet, it is the leading cause of death with 20%.
Wow.
But it's like of pregnant women who die, that is the
That's
20%
crazy.
is murder.
That's crazy.
Whereas it said for regular women, it's 1 in 5.
Oh,
wow.
Which I think is also 20%.
That's really high.
it's 20% too.
Yeah.
But maybe they're killed by car accidents or
So
something.
the internet was a little, yeah.
Also, when were the studies done? But either way, that it even ranks as one of the top is crazy. That's terrifying.
Oh my gosh, this podcast just took such a morbid turn.
Well, if we want to put a positive
Let's get
spin
back to
on
hobbling. It's so much more exciting.
No.
it's just a good reason to adopt. Adopt, don't shop.
Yeah, exactly.
Adopt babies, and then you don't get murdered. Hopefully.
Hopefully not. It's funny as we're talking about all of this stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so like desensitized to all of these things. It's like so casually talking about hobbling and baby death.
I don't know.
and-
You kind of have gasped a couple times. You're not totally desensitized.
Maybe it's just I feel numb inside.
It's just an act.
It's just an act.
Yeah, I guess I connect to that too. There's certain things where you like mimic the human response because you think it's what you're supposed to do, but inside you're like, yeah, that tracks with how horrible this world is.
I do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh yeah, okay, and then someone later will be like, you know that was murder, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's. Oh God, that's so disturbing.
Well, meanwhile, I'm like, but the book, they burned the book.
I know.
Like, that's what I'm so upset about.
And I'm like, and the pig?
Forget
Did
the
pig
book.
get to die?
Creativity out the window. Do you know how hard it is to get an idea and have follow through on it?
Uh-huh.
Basically, we're bad people, is what we're saying.
What was his name? Character's name? It was Paul. It was
Paul Sheldon.
Paul
Yeah,
Sheldon.
I kept
Yeah.
thinking Paul Schrader, who I love, but that's not him.
But also, she hobbles him and then goes, God, I love you.
Yes.
Oh,
It's funny at moments. Like,
It is.
no, it is.
Yeah.
The tone is great.
Yeah, it's very specific.
It reminded me a lot of Hitchcock movies. The soundtrack and the score reminded me of Vertigo, and it just had that aura of like Psycho, and it had this feel of like what is downstairs in the basement. The basement kind of reminded me of in Psycho, where they're kind of going to find him. There's a cop looking for
Yeah.
this lost person. One of my favorite scenes too is when the sheriff was he finally figured it out. He reads the
Yeah, it's a
newspaper
great scene.
clippings, and then
Yeah.
he sees her kind of go crazy, and he goes, I'm gonna go check this out. And then I love the scene where he goes in, he asks about the books.
He sees her go crazy, by the way. What does she shout? She shouts like, you poopy caca, but it's not that.
Yeah,
It's like
it's something like, yeah, it's a like a very like terrible diet.
Yeah, it's like
non-curse
her
word,
version of an expletive. But
which are
it's-
always way worse than the real word.
Well, they're just disturbing because
Yeah.
you're like, you've regressed to being 7 and you're a grown woman.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, just say shit.
Jessica's checking her notes. Do you
I'm
have
checking.
it?
I'm never gonna find it.
All right,
so
that's
keep
fine.
going.
I just love the scene though where he's like in the convenience store and he asks about the book. You get those Paul Sheldon books in here? Oh yeah, definitely. They always sell out right away. And then asks about Annie. Well, has she been buying anything? Oh, nothing out of the ordinary. And then the paper line. I also loved all the paper stuff.
Me
you need
too.
to get me new
Yes.
paper because
Yeah.
this smears.
Yes, I
and
love-
he writes smudge.
Yes, I was going to say yes.
Which was such an asshole thing to write too.
It's
There was a
true.
little bit in that scene where I'm like, I get why she leaves mad.
interesting.
I don't get necessarily like, the craziness of her. But the idea of like, look, I did this for you. And then the guy's like, yeah, but you did it wrong.
Well,
That part, and then he's like, see, it smudges. And he types out smudge, and then he shows her, and she's like, I was like,
she gets really
in my
mad.
marriage, I could relate to this. Where I was like,
I
no,
could
I get
see
it.
that.
You do all these things for somebody, and then the only thing they do is point out the thing you did wrong.
I think that's very valid. I'm surprised it didn't strike me. At the time, I was like, he doesn't want to write a book. She wants him to write a book. So she's not doing anything for him, you know?
Yeah,
But not in her mind.
that's so funny. I love perspective because I watched that scene. I was like, good move. You're buying more time.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
As I was
definitely.
watching, I'm like, good move.
Smart man.
Yeah. But it's,
There's almost, I feel like had he written Misery instead of Smudge, it wouldn't have seemed like such an asshole thing to me. But the fact that he wrote Smudge and then did it, it was just so like cocky.
I almost I tried to take a photo of it and post it on Instagram because I was like, I was like, that's a cool shot.
Yeah, I
It
agree.
is very cool.
It looks so cool.
And I was so relieved when it did Smudge. Because
Yeah.
for a second I was like, uh-oh.
You know how sometimes, even if you're printing, I think, on the right paper, if you don't give it a second and you wipe it, it smudges?
Yeah.
Like, it occurred to me, was it going to smudge no matter what?
Well, that's because that
Maybe.
is really the catalyst. What gets him to go out and explore for the first time because he
Right.
sends her to get more paper. That's when he gets the
Bobby pin.
The bobby pin.
Also, when they asked, did she get anything out of the ordinary? Maybe she didn't get them there, but I was like, didn't she just buy bullets?
But I don't know if that's out of the ordinary if you've got a farm.
I guess.
Yeah, I guess not. I was like the king of non sequiturs here because I love the scene where she says
We're all over the place,
I
by the
know,
way. You fit right in.
Okay, good. He's in the store, in the convenience store. Well, she's been buying a lot of paper, and then he goes, anything weird about that? And he responds, nothing weird about that, and then leaves so quickly. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, he's fucking onto something. Fucking go.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then he gets in the house, and then
It's
I'm
so
like,
scary
holy
and tense.
shit. She
Right
immediately
before.
comes in,
Yes, exactly.
needle in the arm.
Right
he's
before the
out.
needle, I was like, yes, I was so excited. And then immediately that deflation of, oh God, when she injects him.
It's like,
It's so fast. And then her cover story when the sheriff comes in about like, no,
Oh, so
I
smart.
love him so much, and I'm such a big fan, and I've just decided that I'm going to try to write the next novel like I'm him.
I was
Oh my
told by
God.
God. A lot of
Yes.
God talk. A lot of
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
God is leading me. A lot of that.
Which is a great defense because you're like, oh, she's not a crazy killer. She's just crazy.
Right, exactly. She's just a crazy religious zealot.
But again, like this was just like such a perfect scene of like tension building. Like I love tension building.
Yeah.
And it just
It's
is
really
like,
masterful.
and it's just like, okay, he leaves. You see him struggling. He struggles. He knocks over the same
Well, even
barbecue
before he
pit.
leaves, when the cop is still there, there's the moment where he kind of sneaks upstairs while she's making him hot chocolate.
And then she comes.
she appears
comes
right
so
behind him.
close to him.
with the
I
hot
thought she was
cocoa.
going to kill him then.
And it must have been
Ugh.
poison because she really wanted him to drink
You
the hot
think
Coke.
so?
I don't know. It
might have been.
It wouldn't have worked because then if he died, then people would have come missing. But
Yeah.
This movie, it's like a real don't poison people. It's not going to work because if that was poison, that's the second time that a poisoning hasn't followed through. Because
Oh, but it was so
The dinner
smart.
scene is so
I
upsetting.
know. Oh,
when
oh, yeah,
he
we
puts
skipped
all
right
the
past
poison
it.
in the wine.
And the way that he collects
Yeah,
it
that's
in like
right.
a piece of paper,
Oh.
he
And
like
then, yeah.
folds this paper, pours it in her wine.
So
and then
charming,
I
we
thought
need a
she was
candle.
gonna see it or figure it out or somehow, and she did not. She didn't know.
No, it's just dumb luck.
It's just dumb luck. You're right. That's like almost the most upsetting.
That scene is very upsetting.
There's a
and
cool
it's like, oh
screenwriting.
shit, now you just have to actually have dinner with her.
Oh, you know, he has to like keep it up because he's acting like, oh, I want to have a romantic.
And I was
Candlelit dinner
wondering when
with
she's
you.
like explaining the secret of the meatloaf, I was like, I wonder if it's good. You know, because like you're in like a rural place and this is something that she
Yeah.
feels like she's the best at making, so she made it. And I was like, I mean, I know this is all terrible, but like, I wonder if it is like, That's really good meatloaf.
I felt like probably not because she was like, and then I use Spam. And I've never had Spam, but it just looks gross.
Yeah.
And that's one
Spam's
of the
not bad.
ingredients.
I mean, when you go to Hawaii, they serve Spam with
I
everything.
know, but
But I'm from the
Canned
South,
meat.
yeah.
and my husband makes a really good meatloaf. So I'm like,
But does he use Spam?
you know what? I don't know what he uses.
I gotta find out.
If I find out, then I might have to make it. I like being like, no, that's your thing.
Uh-huh.
It's a secret recipe.
But it's such a good point that it's just dumb luck. She
Yeah.
knocks over her wine glass by accident,
Yeah.
and there goes all of those saved pills, just like that. Mm-hmm. Oh,
It was a solid tension moment where you're just like watching it. And
Yes.
it's just the whole movie
I was
does
on the edge of my seat there.
it almost does it like odd amount of times. Like it keeps building and you think he's gonna get out. You keeps building. It almost does it like it would make sense to do it 6 times, but they do it like 11 times, like where they just keep on stretching it out. Where this, you know, by the time he's hobbled and he's flicking her off and like, and then they do it again with the cop showing up. It's like as I was watching it, I'm like, I know the cop gets shot. I know he
I
dies.
didn't know that was going to
I
happen,
didn't
by the
either.
way.
Well, I thought it was going to happen with the hot cocoa, and then when it didn't, I was like,
Yeah, I know that there's the moment that he doesn't save him. I remembered. I'm like, oh yeah, no, he's done. But then I was like, is there another 30 minutes? Because there could have been at which the
Yeah.
rhythm of the movie was
Right.
happening for me, where I was just like, oh wait, yeah, there's only like 10 minutes left of this movie now. But
and it's action packed. But yeah, the cop hears him rummaging around, comes back again. I got so excited. My heart is like swelling. He opens the door to the basement,
Yeah.
looks down, sees him.
Yeah.
You're like, he's gonna get saved.
he goes, what does he say? He goes, Mr. What was the? It's Paul.
Mr. Sheldon?
Mr. Sheldon. Boom.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, it's so painful.
such a brutal. The skip pack on that guy's gut when that exploded.
Yes.
It's so sad too because we've followed him and his wife for so
Right.
long, and all I could think of in that moment was like, oh no, his poor wife.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
It's fucked up.
Like they've become such people to me. They did a
Yeah.
really good job of like really. He's not just like the cliche cop or something. Like I thought he was the most likable character in the movie.
He's really very likable.
I was as soon as that happened, I was like, no, fuck the writer, save the sheriff. Like
Yeah.
I like him better.
Yeah, he's really great. Also, James Caan, we're talking about the duplicity of,
Richard Farnsworth, right? He was amazing.
yeah, he was great.
They're all great,
He's
yeah.
so lovable. Annie has this sort of like duplicitous quality that's very interesting. But James Caan has it too because
Yeah.
he puts it on for her. And I remember at one point, Amir walked in and was like, he doesn't look very scared. And I was like, I know. At first I thought that too. But then when she leaves, he does. You know, like
Yeah.
there are
Yeah.
moments where you're like, you look very calm. And it's like, oh, the character is a good actor. And then there's moments where something happens and he's in pain and he turns bright red and you see the pain all over him and I'm like, oh, that's good.
Now as I'm thinking about it, there's a lot of like less is more going on with a lot of the
Yeah.
acting where they're like they're not doing that much. He's very quiet, very still in his performance, but like you could just tell where he's at, where it's like, okay, don't make the wrong move, buddy.
Yeah.
You know? And then
Very measured.
And her as well, she does this awesome, very kind of measured out performance that's just like slowly, oh, I'm gonna turn it on really off, turn it off. I also the scene where he's like trying to get strong, like
Oh,
yeah, lifting the typewriter.
lifting the typewriter, and then
That's
of
so
course that
smart.
comes back. It all comes back in that end scene.
That end
Oh,
scene
yeah.
is so well done. And I've thought for a moment, like, the fucking sheriff died for nothing. But he didn't because if she hadn't have hit him in the basement.
Yep.
Well, I guess actually he could have taken the flammable stuff, the gas or whatever
Yeah,
it is,
yeah.
and the cop could have left. So he does still kind of die for nothing. But the cop had to come. Sheriff had to come.
The sheriff had to come, but yeah, he did die for nothing. I mean, but it worked for the film because the film you're watching it and you're just like, God damn it! Like, it's an incredibly violent movie at points, but like there isn't a lot of. Well, I guess there's a lot of death in it that you don't see, but that's like really the only on-camera death you see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot of
until
psychological
Annie. Yeah.
horror. You know, early on so first it's like she's so nice and sure, like when the road's open and blah, blah, blah. And then that scene where she's like, no one knows you're here. I never called.
Oh, yeah.
And if I die, you die. That is where I was just like, fuck me. Like that is so scary, that idea of all of a sudden and then he finds out that everyone thinks he's dead and no one is looking for you. It was
Right.
such a scary idea.
Yes.
I had a good friend of mine. I just wanted to add this in there because the reason I chose this movie was I remember my friend Hero. He's this photographer, and he would always do this thing. It'd be hard to kind of on the podcast, but he would always like shake his finger, he'd be like, and we'd always be like, where do you get this from? You like, he'd always do that. And we'd be like, where is the hero getting this from? We'd always be on these like music tours, and he's like, oh, Misery. It's in Misery. And we're like, oh yeah. And then Ira was like, I remember that scene, but when I hadn't.
Yeah.
So one night we were on tour, like maybe 15 years ago or something like that. They happened to have Misery. We were staying at this house on like VHS, and so we watched it. And the finger wave scene is so short. It's like
When is that?
I missed it. I missed it while I was watching it this time. It was such like and we all turned to him and go, "That was the scene that you remember from the whole movie."
That's so funny.
Because your impression of it reminds me of Jurassic Park
Yes.
when they're trying to get into the computer.
Oh yeah.
And it's the guy from Seinfeld.
Dennis Nedry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I know I keep hitting this, but I
No.
really am curious if you guys have thoughts on, does she live by a moral code, and what is it? Why, if you're a good Christian woman, would you be so opposed to foul language but okay with murdering babies?
I think she lives by, she definitely lives by a moral code, but it is a perverse moral code that is like so confused and distorted that it's like, it's okay to, there's a very legitimate reason why I need to murder babies, and there's a very legitimate reason why I shouldn't curse, or you shouldn't curse either. Like, they're all in the same boat, and it's like, whoa, well, those two things are not the same at all. So I think she does, and I do think the film was playing with like evangelicals, Christians, like that kind of like God complex.
Hypocrisy.
Yeah, I just, and as I was watching it, I was kind of going like, during that time, what it came out, what year did it come out?
90, 91?
So yeah, you have like Gulf War starting and all of these, I'm sure politically at the time too, it's, a Bush era, it's like, I'm just sure it's like still, when I was watching this, and this has come up for me recently, is like, how things haven't changed ever. Like, it's like the same problems keep coming up, decade after decade. It's like we have like little things that change, but then it's like they go back, it's like get rolled back, and it's like a nightmare again. So watching this, I was like, oh my God, you could make the same movie, but like turn it into like an A24 film, and it would be the same story, and you would just tweak a couple things, and it would be shot differently, and it would be the same, it'd have the same effect.
Yeah. Anything like All in a House, where you have to really get creative with the characters and what they can do, really speaks to me.
It felt like a play at times as I was watching it.
It would
too.
work really
Yeah, and
well
they
as a
turned it
play.
into a Broadway play.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I did not know that.
That makes
Well,
perfect
that's why I'm
sense.
here.
Did you have any thoughts on her moral code?
Oh, yeah. Well, when I was reading all those articles, the first one is about how her dad died in a freak accident being pushed down the stairs, and that Annie, it said, was 11. And since that seems to be the earliest thing, I would feel like there's something that must have happened with her dad. Her dad must have been. I mean, like, I was thinking if she pushes her dad down the stairs and then she kills babies, then maybe there was something happened to her when she was a baby.
Right. Yeah, maybe.
There's something. If her dad
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
a great person.
Definitely, no. There's Annie was abused for sure when she was a kid.
Yeah.
Coming back to the mental health question, when she says that the rain makes her blue and she's going to go get extra bullets, my first thought was like, does she mean for herself or for James Caan? And what
think
did you
both.
think? I'm going to kill myself and you.
Because that's where
Yeah.
she comes to at the end, where she kind of, I thought, implied that we were both going to have to die together at some point.
I felt like she came there at the end, but I thought it was only because of the sheriff's death.
I felt like she was going to kill herself actually, and not him. The jig's up. You're never, because I love the whole "you're never gonna love me."
Right.
It was this very intense moment where you're watching it, going like, "Oh, she's just gonna kill herself," and then like the jig's up or the
Yeah.
party's over.
I was like hopeful. I'm like, maybe she'll just kill herself.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, but
Because she's so scary. Also, can we talk for a second about how in the very beginning, when she saves him and is helping him heal, and we see his legs and his feet for the first time, they're so scary.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
That's
He's
like
in really bad
terrifying right
shape.
away.
He's in bad shape.
I was like, how are they going to get scarier?
She
than
really
this?
does save his life.
Yeah.
Like, he's all broken.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of happens. I mean, I want to talk about that final scene one a little bit more, but like,
Yeah, please.
but-
oh my gosh,
but-
yeah, we haven't even gotten to the showdown yet.
No,
and then
yeah.
what does she say? Dom Perignon?
Dom
Yeah.
Perignon.
And he repeats it that way.
But at the very
Such
end of the
an
movie,
asshole.
he says like he still thinks about her a lot.
Yeah.
So there is this element which is true. Like, she does save his life, and what he had to go through to continue to live.
Yeah, he says he's a changed person or
Yeah, so there is some kind of like
appreciation almost.
that odd, like everything happens for a reason kind
Yeah.
of thing, and he's, now writing his best work,
Yeah, and it's also, there's an element of like, wherever I look, there she is,
It would be
Right.
great if they were like, "This is your best work. There's no swearing in it."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
Some weird turn that he's taking.
Okay, well, listener, hopefully you have watched because you should, and you're doing yourself a disservice if you haven't. But we've kind of given away that he does get away and get to write another book. But before that, the
Yeah, the
way he
showdown.
escapes, oh God, it's so good.
He finishes the book.
He finishes the book.
She says she's going to kill him and herself, and then he convinces her, "Let me finish." It's mostly the love story that gets her.
Yeah.
You want to know if Misery ends up with this guy or the other guy.
Yeah.
So you have to let me finish it. I'm almost done, and then
Yeah.
you'll know. Yeah.
Okay, so again, like
Yeah,
James
to give
Caan,
Misery eternal life.
Yeah.
the smudge moment, like in full effect. I'm just like, good job, good job. That's what I was thinking. I'm just like, okay, more time.
Yes,
and then
being
he's got
so
the
smart.
thing. He's shoving everything down his pants. So many things have been in the pills and all of that stuff.
Yes.
He's just putting him in
Pills
those
and knife,
sweats,
well-
those gray sweat. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then we get to the scene.
Oh, also, it only occurs to me right now when they're trying to show the passage of time, they have him in all of these different shirts.
Oh, that's right.
So does she buy him clothes?
She must.
They
yeah.
might be
Yeah.
our old husbands also.
Oh, it could be.
Could have been stuff she had left
Right.
over.
Do we think she killed her husband?
I don't know. I
I mean,
didn't
if
see
she's killing
anything on
babies, she's
him.
killing
Husbands.
She's killing husbands too.
That's true. Okay, so back to the Don Perignon.
It's done really well because he's writing it as she's reading it. So it's like, I'm just about to get to the last chapter. Annie, I'm done. If we're going to do this, I got to do this right. So
I
then
need
we go
three
back.
things.
Need three
She's
things.
like, what? He's like, you know
don't-
what?
And then she's like, I know. I was just being silly.
Yeah, you need a cigarette because you used to smoke, but you quit unless you finish a book and then you have just one. You need matches to light the cigarette, and you need one glass of champagne, or she says Dom Perignon,
Which
Yeah.
is, it made me, I laughed so hard when I saw it. I was like, oh, of course. Because
so good.
which is echoing the beginning scene.
well, that's what I thought when I was watching him. Like, she's going to get Dom Perignon. Where's she going to get that from?
That's what I thought too. Wouldn't that be unusual?
That was the most unusual part.
With
Where
the
the fuck
general
is she
store?
buying Dom Perignon
Yeah.
out there? Like she's maybe she's such a lunatic. She has. That's probably what they
Because-
thought when they got in production. They're like, she's a lunatic. She has Dom Perignon. That's
I
what
guess
it
she
is.
would because she loves him so much.
But
That's
I
the
would
reason
love
why,
if
yeah.
it was like, has she bought anything weird? She bought a lot of paper. She bought champagne and cigarettes and lighters and bullets and a bunch of men's clothes.
Yeah, it's like
So much food.
haven't seen him.
Lots of
She's eating for
bandages.
two.
Sledgehammer.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, that's what sets it off. Where it's like,
She goes to get, I do love first.
oh,
I love, she's like, did I do it right? And he's like, you forgot one thing. And
Uh-huh.
she's like, what? I need 2 glasses.
Yeah, it's this
So she-
romance for them.
Which, like, I have to say, I'm fully invested in this movie, and even that moment, I got butterflies too. I was like, "Oh my god, that's so nice!"
It actually kind of feels like the opening line also of him being like, I don't let anyone read it except for my editor, my agent,
Yeah.
and people who saved my life.
It's
yeah,
so-
brings back that charm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. He really knows how to turn it on.
I was
James
attracted
Caan
to him in that
charm.
moment.
You're like, I'll go get a glass.
Yeah, I was like, "That's so nice," because normally writers really shut you out of everything.
CC The Shining.
And then,
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
he's not asking her for a second glass.
No.
no way.
As he eats his breakfast alone in bed that she slaved over.
Oh, he's the worst.
God.
Not Jimmy Caan.
Yeah, this
He's-
did remind me of The Shining a little bit. Just
There is
the,
a little bit
the
of it.
writer who's
Yeah.
like stuck in his own head and like having to battle all these
Right.
outside forces in the snow.
Yeah.
So he torches it.
yes.
he's poured-
He holds it up. Oh, yeah.
Well, he waits for her to get back.
Wait
Yeah.
for he get back. He
He
puts
pours
the lighter
gasoline.
fluid all
Yeah.
over the
Lighter
this.
fluid.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Whatever.
whatever.
Earlier I was like, flammable
fluid
liquid.
that puts
Yeah.
things on fire. Yeah. And then he wraps up one of the pages and then goes like, "You want to know if Misery's father ever comes back?" Like he just starts like teasing her, and then
Yeah.
she's like,
He
"What's
lights it
going
on fire.
Lights it on fire, and then she freaks.
How could you
Yeah.
do this? And he says, I learned it from you.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And they fight, and then
She falls to her knees to try and put out the fire.
And then she catches on fire.
Yeah.
And that's when he
He
lifts
st-
the typewriter.
cracks it over her head. And then he also takes the page and says, "Choke on this, you crazy
Yeah.
fuck." I think that's the line.
Yeah, that is the line. And it's like all these burnt embers that he's grabbing and
Yeah.
like shoving in her mouth.
I noticed actually it looked like the top of. Oh, you know what? I think this was earlier actually when she lights his new novel on fire. I noticed like one of the top of the curtains catches fire too, and then it's just gone. So
Yeah.
it must have been an accident, and they're like, "Oh, we'll just pretend that didn't happen."
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because the first time that they set the fire, she's very surprised by how much of a fire it really
Right.
was.
And then I don't remember how it
He
gets to the
trips her
point
and she
where
falls.
he trips her.
And she hits her head on the typewriter and she's dead. And I was
And
like,
that
And then
was
there's this
the
wide
one
shot. Yeah.
that I was like, this looks very fake. Because the rest of it I was very into. When she falls and hits her head, I rewound it a few times. It's like a wax head. And I'm like,
oh,
why?
I thought it looked great. I didn't rewind it a bunch of times. So just
I
watching
rewound
it
it
the
because I
once,
found
was
it
like,
so
ugh.
distracting. And then
I
I was
have-
like, did
I
I,
have such
see
a
it
thing
wrong?
with like people hitting their head and accidentally dying, like that kind of an accident. It really creeps me out so much because it just could happen to anybody.
Well,
and
it's also so smart because he cracks her over the head and it doesn't kill her, but then she just falls at the right angle. And
yeah,
it
and he's
seems
not
to
even
do the
trying.
job.
He's just trying to stop her from getting the gun.
Right.
Yeah.
Although at this point, the gun, no, that's later. The gun still has 2 bullets in it, right? Or has she already shot them?
No, she shot him in the arm.
Yeah, she shoots him during the fight.
Yeah, but and it's the 2 go off, and then there's no more guns. The gun's out of the equation.
Yeah, so she's reaching for something else.
And well, there's a I don't know if there's a knife. No, there's not a knife, but there is a scene that I totally remember. I'm like, there is like an eye gougey kind of moment where like
Oh, yeah.
he like puts his hands in her eyes,
And then
I
we
was
see
just
the
like,
blood
and
from
I'm like,
her eye.
oh fuck, that's the one scene that I always remember when that kind of tactics.
I wonder
used.
if Game of Thrones borrowed from that.
They had to have.
Yeah.
they all.
I'm not into it.
Oh, it's
It was so
scary.
intense.
But that's so funny that it didn't take you guys out of it. That was the only shot for me. I was like, "There's a wax head. Why? She could just they could just lay
All
Kathy
of
Bates'
those-
head on the keyboard. Why is
No,
this
that
weird
means nothing
waxy
to me.
head?"
A lot of movies that take place in like the 90s and stuff, I'll rewatch them sometimes. And I was even watching like I might have been watching Casino or something like that, and I'm like, there's like a crossfade right in the middle of a scene. Like he uses 2 takes, and I'm like, it's so obvious. That's one of my favorite movies, but I'm just like, there's like 2 scenes that just got faded into each other. If anyone tried to do that in a student film or like a short film, people would be like, okay, whatever, buddy.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But so I feel like they had a lot of luxury because also people weren't rewinding things as
Right,
much.
that's true. But I
Or
only
in high
rewound
def.
it because it
Yeah.
distracted me the first time.
There's like
Got it.
for me, stuff like that never takes me out of it.
it usually doesn't for me, but
That's
I'm getting
for like
more
all
sensitive.
of these movies that we've been doing. Like I am pretty like if I'm on board, I'm on board. The only
Yeah.
thing that really takes me out is if there's like dialogue that I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
why did they say that? But otherwise, like effects or
Usually I'm the
shots
same
or
way.
anything like that doesn't bother
When
me.
people are like, "That looks so fake," I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't notice it."
yeah, I'm the same way.
Lately, I'm more sensitive to it for some reason. It's
Well-
a great movie, so that's really the only
But so
thing.
she
I could
hits
point
her
to.
head, she's dead, and he crawls out of the room. And,
then this
I was on the she's dead. I wrote on my page, she hits her head, dies. I wrote dead.
Yeah.
I was on board for that. Like
Mm-hmm.
I fell for this hook, line, and sinker. This was my jump.
Yeah, my jump too.
I jumped so
too.
hard.
I guess I forgot I jumped twice. Yeah, I definitely
Ugh.
jumped.
I really thought that she was dead because that is
Oh,
such a great
you know what?
ending of like it was just he tripped her and she died.
I didn't just jump, I screamed. Because
Mm-hmm.
Amir was like, "What happened?" And I let out a full scream. But anyway.
well, and
yes,
like the
go on.
irony of like, you know, she's so in love with the writer and all this stuff, and it's the typewriter that killed her, not the writer.
Yeah.
You know, it's like such a great ending. And
Yeah.
then he crawls out and she leaps on top of him.
And then she
Didn't see that coming.
She gets
Yeah.
on top of him. They crawl. What do we see? A random. This actually kind of took me out of it a little bit, where it's just like, oh, there's like a misery pig.
Oh, it's a
like,
doorstop.
Doorstop. Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, that's what it was.
That makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah,
I
it's
didn't
a doorstop.
Okay. So the doorstop. But then
So
it's,
misery kills her. in the
misery
end.
kills her. That's what it is.
But
Oh,
it's
there
not.
you go.
It's not Misery the pig, and it's not Misery the books. It's like a homage to Misery
Yeah.
the pig,
That's-
in the form of. It's not actually homage.
It's
It always
not? It's
annoys me when
homage?
people say it. Yeah.
Oh.
And I sound dumb when I say homage, but it is homage. Everybody says homage, and
Yeah,
they
I
act
say
like it's a
homage.
French word, but it's not. But everybody says homage.
I'm going to keep
Homage.
saying homage just like I still say GIF. I'm not accepting of any.
I still say gift too.
What is it? Is it GIF?
Yeah, it's supposed to be GIF.
Yeah, I always say
allegedly.
GIF. Occasionally, I see an interview where someone says homage, and I'm like, yes, thank you.
It always sounds strange to me.
It does sound strange because everyone says it wrong.
It's the
Whenever-
Dom Perignon of words.
It's almost
Yes.
like when you say that, I feel like homage means something else and homage means something else. I'm like, are they the same thing or are they
Similar
different
with
things?
when people say ambiance, because I think there is a French word ambiance, but it's also like an English word and it's ambience. So people just make it fancy.
Oh, so the ambiance is being said wrong too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Ambience.
words that
Yeah.
are said wrong.
I really like the ambience in here.
Yeah.
I like ambiance.
Nope.
Yeah, I
it's
like it
good.
better too.
Like, this is an interesting ambiance in here.
We all have
Nope.
these weird things that
I'll
drive.
say ambience and I'll say homage.
Okay.
That's
till the
like
death.
for me, it's often when people put a T.
Oh yeah.
Often? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, no, I don't do that.
I don't
I
do
was
that, but I
taught
don't
that it
mind
was often, and I remember getting in a
I
fight with my
often-
teacher in 5th grade, and she was like, "No, you're wrong." And I told my mom, and she was like, "Yeah, well, it's Texas. What do you expect?"
Wait, I think it is often. I don't think you're supposed to say the T.
Yeah, you're not supposed to.
Right. I thought you were saying it wrong because it's Texas.
Oh no, my teacher was saying it wrong.
Oh, I see.
And I got in a fight
Often.
with her.
Yeah,
I never mind when people say often, but I don't say it.
I say little things wrong all the time. I just kind of, it's like you just got to live with it.
She's dead. Finally.
She's dead.
Yes.
And
And then we fade to black.
No. Oh, yeah, well, it fades to black.
We go 18 months later.
We go 18 months
Yeah.
later, and then we're back in a very 90s New York City.
He's got a cane.
He's got a cane.
He looks cool with the cane.
He's looking good. He's got like a big suit with like big shoulders. And we see Lauren Bacall one last
She's
time.
back, yeah.
She's back with a new book. With
We never see the daughter.
Yeah, I know. I
Never-
wondered.
no. Yeah, the
But
daughter-
we don't need her.
Don't need her. He's got a new book with a very postmodern designed, book cover.
The higher education of Philip Stone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows what that's about?
Who the
Yeah.
fuck knows about what that is about?
It's such
Yeah.
a bizarre title.
Because I did
True.
think he was going to write about his experience, and then
immediately he's like, "I'm not writing about my experience."
yeah, it's like
I love that he's like, if I didn't know you better, I'd think that you were trying to make money off of the most traumatic experience of my life. Again, a very charming way to address it.
yes,
And we see the change in him that he's like, I don't care about the critics. This book is for me.
this book was
Yeah.
for me. Yeah,
But it is wildly successful.
Yeah.
It's like such a funny thing to be like, I don't care about what the critics are saying when all they're saying is nice things.
Right. It's
Yeah.
easy to not care when it's
Yeah.
kind.
yeah.
If it had been horrible, he would be in a
That
pit
would
of
make more
depression.
sense to me for him to be like, I'm taking a stand.
But I do like that it's wildly successful because I think there's something about when you know what he's been through, it informs the way you would read the next book. So critics would love it just because now he's a survivor and he has this crazy story.
Can you imagine if the reviews were like, he survived for that?
You sons of bitches.
Oh, she should have killed him. This book was terrible. It would
see
have
that.
saved me an hour.
Oh my God.
You'll see the third side of Jimmy Kahn in that scene. Jesus.
And then he looks up and we see Kathy Bates.
We see Kathy Bates pushing a chocolate cake.
She looks terrifying as ever.
Yep, and then for a split, but he's talking and he's saying, sometimes I just see her and think about her, and then it cuts to this very 90s vibed brunette woman who goes, "Are you Paul
Sheldon?
Sheldon? I'm your biggest,
Number one
I'm
fan.
your
I'm your
number
number
one
one fan."
And he's like, how nice.
Yeah. Yes, it's great. That moment
That's
is
very
so
sweet
great.
of you.
Yeah.
Is that what he says?
Yes.
It's very sweet of
Well-
you. Oh, and then it fades
Yeah.
to like a really beautiful song at the end.
Well, I was excited when I found out. I think that I knew this, but like doing my research, found out that Kathy Bates won the Oscar for Best Actress for this, and it's such a great
Oh.
story that she was like. Before this, she's like an unknown actress making her way, and then
And she even has
wins
that
an
line
Oscar.
where she says, I know I don't look like those movie stars that you date or whatever. And it made me so happy
Yeah.
because I was like, and you are a movie star.
I think she was primarily stage actress
Yeah.
before this.
Yeah.
Don't quote me. But so she won the Oscar for this, for Best Actress, and it said that she's the first to win a Best Actress Oscar for a horror movie.
Oh, wow.
And then I went down the rabbit hole and I watched her Oscar acceptance speech.
And
And it was so interesting because I was like expecting, like what we see now where, it's like Jennifer Lawrence is tripping on the stage and all that stuff. And instead, because I was like, she's brand new to this, she was so composed.
Yeah.
Oh. And it's like they used to have podiums so she can just like set her Oscar down and like, take out a speech or whatever.
Oh, cool.
And it's just like, I feel like having the podium in front really blocks a lot of the vulnerability of accepting the Oscar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she did make a joke in there where she says like, and sorry about the ankles when she thanks Jimmy Kahn.
oh my
Oh, that's
gosh.
cute.
But I mean, she won an Oscar for this. It's
That's
pretty
awesome.
amazing. It's,
No, her character is flawless. Like it's incredibly creepy. I was nervous when I was watching it for the first 15 minutes, and I was going like, "Oh wait, does this hold up?" I can't remember. Mm-hmm. And, that movie was made 30 years ago now, pretty much. So it's like I'm like, "Oh wow, like this is an older movie now.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it and I'm going like, oh boy, this is, and then it just keeps going and going and building.
The
and it's like,
pace
no,
is
no,
great.
It just works out.
And who else could play that part? She nails every part of it. Like, you totally believe that she could be the sweet,
Yeah.
like, Midwestern woman. I mean, it's not the Midwest, but it feels Midwestern to me.
Eagle Creek.
But you could also believe that she could pick him up out of a car and put him on her back
Yeah.
and carry him home.
Right.
Like, the fight scenes between them are so great because they do feel evenly matched.
Yeah. And there's a scrappiness. We've used that word before when we were talking about Friday the 13th. There's a real scrappiness to their fighting that I love.
Yeah, very
Because-
real.
Yeah, so real. Exactly.
Well, he's in a wheelchair, so he has to, like, there's this odd element of like, he's still at a disadvantage. It needs to survive.
Right.
But she's at a disadvantage too because she's had just been hit on the head with
Mm-hmm.
a, So it's this even matched like psycho fest. It was
really good.
It's a really great, and that jump scare at the very end of it is like I was like, oh yes. It reminded me of Cape Fear and how like De Niro just kind of keeps coming back. It reminded me a bit of the stylistic elements of it.
Well, and there is, I think, like, the measure of a good movie is, like, no one else could have played her part. And I also feel like nobody else could have played his part.
Yeah.
Like,
It was
Warren
interesting
Beatty
to-
had turned it down, and, like, Jack Nicholson turned it down.
The
That would've been weird.
article that I saw was like they were all comedic actors that turned it down. It was Kevin Kline, and I'm forgetting who else now. But
Oh my God, I would love Kevin Kline. well,
like,
the
oh,
thing,
that's
because
so
I saw
interesting.
that, like, Warren Beatty helped with some of the rewriting a little bit,
Oh,
like, just
interesting.
talking it over. I never know if any of that's right. But
Yeah.
it said, like, the funny quote was like, imagine if it was me, Warren Beatty, how would I get out of this or
what a
something?
nerd.
Which I love that quote. But it had said, like, some men didn't want to do the part because they felt
so
like.
passive, so
Yeah,
reactive.
it was like emasculating that she.
and that's part of
hobbles him.
why James Caan wanted to do it because it was a change for him to be.
He's so great in this movie.
He is, because it's a
Jesus.
total opposite. Like, there's only a few times where you get those like James Caan moments.
Yeah.
And the rest of it is like him, like, yeah. Oh, no,
Right.
why would I want to do that?
eyes darting around trying to come up with something.
Well, and it's like you're on his side the whole time, but I'm also a little bit. I'm not on her side. I want to say I'm not on her side, but there is that thing where I'm like, he is a little bit of a douchebag.
Yeah,
like-
totally. I think that's. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, where I like some of the things where she's like, I wouldn't believe you or whatever. I'm like, I wouldn't believe him either. Like, you can tell a little bit that he's playing her in some scenes where it's like, oh, I bet you play a lot of women like this who
Right.
aren't hobbling you.
But that's,
Right.
I mean, to that, it's like he's like stuck in this room. He's like, if it was anybody, he's being held capture, and I think
Right.
he kind of knows it early on.
I know,
think
just
so,
it
too.
comes to him like very easily.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
I see both sides of this. I'm like, yeah.
The lying and manipulating is like he turns it on like a faucet.
But also he's a storyteller, so he, I think, is practiced at being able to spin a yarn. And he
Well, and I
does that
do
with
love
her.
when he uses the bobby pin to get out. He has a line where he's like, "Oh, it really worked."
Yeah. I actually have a friend, I don't think he would mind me saying, I think this is so funny, because we did a web series where he plays somebody whose mom was sort of a career criminal. And so he's very practiced, Chris Alvarado, maybe you know
Yeah.
him too, in picking locks. And I was asking him how to do
Wait,
it
I don't
once.
know Chris Alvarado. Sorry.
Okay. That's fine.
I know. Yeah.
I went with a friend to a cabin, and he
Chris
realized
Travado.
he had left the key. And we were like, fuck, how do we get in? And I was like, I'm going to call Chris and ask him how to pick a lock. Oh,
wow.
And so I did. And it didn't end up, my friend that I was with was not down to do it. And we had to like drive back an hour to get the key. But he was like, okay, first you put it in, you do whatever. He's like, and then this is what my mom always said, you just feel it. I love that. That there's this like spiritual connection in picking a lock. I thought that was so great.
The bobby pin looked very effective. It had
Yeah.
the little bobby pin. I don't know. I was looking at him like, that's a key.
Yeah, there's like the little like balls
Ball
at the end.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that could pick
Yeah.
an old timey lock, no problem.
Well, and I always have bobby pins on me because I have short hair. So I was like, oh, good to know. Because, like, you know, I'm used to seeing in movies they do like the credit card thing, which I would
Right.
never be able to figure out.
Yeah.
That one doesn't work.
Yeah, we
Okay.
tried that one at this cabin. Didn't
Yeah,
we?
I feel like that just ruins credit
There's
cards.
no. Yeah, that would just break your credit card. There's no way
Yeah.
it can get.
Which would probably be great for my credit. Also, thank you for doing such a good movie.
Yeah, great
It's
job.
great.
We love
it.
it.
Was a great pick. I enjoyed it.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
I got over a lot of my fear of seeing it. Like, I feel better now seeing it, but there was hesitation.
I'm really glad that we got to watch it.
Chris, do you want to plug anything?
I want to plug that this was just a great podcast.
Thank you for doing it.
Yeah, no problem.
Come
I just
back.
rubbed Chris's knee as a
Thank
thank
you.
you, and then I thought of that scene in the car. And here I'm your podcasting host,
Yes.
not your friend.
Yeah, we're podcasting
Coworkers.
coworkers right now.
This
Sorry.
is a professional, non-paying setting.
I don't know. I have a radio show. I do have things to plug.
Oh, yeah.
No, I do a radio show on Wednesdays at KXLU called Noise Pollution.
Very
From
cool.
10 to 11, 88.9 FM or KXLU.com. And then I've got some new short films always coming out. And then my band has a record coming out
Whoa.
called Wildfire, which will be out after you hear this podcast. So you can go get it on Spotify
Oh, that's
and
so
iTunes.
cool.
Do you
We'll
have an
link to it.
Instagram or something?
Yeah, and then my Instagram is
And Twitter?
Chris Candy Forever, and Chris Candy for You on Twitter.
Is it Forever?
I think it's Chris Candy Forever.
Like number 4.
No, I think it's Forever.
Forever,
Hold on.
ever, forever.
Chris Candy for EVER ever. Chris Candy Forever.
Number 4.
And then and this one is number 4.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Chris Candy Forever, number 4.
You're like a
Nice.
high school girl. I like it. And your Twitter?
Chris Candy for You, number
Great.
4.
Letter U.
Letter U.
Perfect. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks
Yes,
for having
thank
me.
you.
This was great. And we'll be back next week with
Oh, Pet Cemetery.
Yep.
We're going to continue down
The
the
original.
Stephen King early 90s. Well,
Yeah.
I think that's 89, actually.
Yeah,
And
the
you can
89
find
version.
us on Instagram at He's Right Behind You Podcast. And please, if you're on iTunes, rate, review, subscribe. Thanks for listening.